today. I am Reverend Jena, and I'm with Reverend Joella, and we are going to talk a little bit today. This is going to be the first in a series that I'm going to introduce called the Ministry of the Body. And I thought it was just beautiful because it was right around Valentine's Day, and so that's kind of been in the ethers. But we want to welcome you guys to this, and this is kind of like our prototype. This is our first time introducing this material in this way, but I'm really, really excited about introducing it. I'm trying to look at our little thing this time. And also with Ministry of the Body, one of the reasons why when we sat down to actually offer this up, we did want to talk a little bit about, working through shame in order to work towards living more authentically in our lives. And, shame is something that kind of rears its ugly head. And as an interfaith minister that comes from more of a conservative Catholic upbringing, I feel like I've got I know shame a little bit. And that's no dig at all to the Catholic Church. Catholicism is really, really beautiful, but it is something that is taught theologically. And so a lot of my journey has always been about deconstructing what that means and deconstructing it and how that lives in our bodies and how it can hinder us from being authentic.
And how it hinders us from showing up in the world.
Yeah. And creating community, intentional community. Right. So, yay. Thank you for being part of this big experiment. And thank you all at home for being part of this big experiment as well. So I guess I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gave you my part, so you're on a roll. Go for it.
All right. So one of the things that I like to do before we start the service is I like to acknowledge the land here. And so those of you who are joining us from home, I'm going to invite you to take a moment, and let's just all take a moment to breathe together. Let the chatter be what it is in your mind. If you're feeling judgment, let it be. If you're feeling trepidation, let it be. If you're feeling boredom, let it be. If you're feeling curiosity, let it be. And just be present with yourself in this moment. Begin to feel the earth under your feet wherever you are in the world. Feel the ground that holds you, the air that comes into your lungs and nurtures your body. Feel how your body takes up physical space. And as you sink into this deep body awareness, be aware that we are because nature is. The earth, air, fire, and water that feeds us and is all around us, it informs who we are. And it has a history that is older than our own human story. And so with that, I would like to acknowledge the land that I find myself on, the ancestral home of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho people. They inform the way that I interact and create relationship with land. And wherever you are in the world, find out whose land that is that ancestral home. And in this land acknowledgement, I want to offer you a moment to offer in your ancestors and think of the earth, air, fire, and water of their homelands. That is part of this story too. And so with that, I'm going to light our candles, maybe metaphorically speaking. I've lost the lighter. Oh, I got it. Let us pray together. Father, Mother, God, Creator, great mystery, the ineffable, to the grand universe, We thank you for the breath that is in our lungs, for the blood that is in our bodies, for the bones. We thank you. And together we come together to create a fellowship where that is celebrated, where our bodies are beautiful, where the land and our bodies, there is no distinction. Love and gratitude. And Father, Mother, God, as I light these candles, may it be a knock on the door, and may you come in and hold us in all of the work we do together as a fellowship. And then at the end, may the work that we do reverberate and distribute out into the ethers where it is needed. And may it fill the hearts of those who are lonely, who are filled with shame, who are sad. I light this green candle, which was our Yule candle, bringing the light forth. We light a candle in the service of love in all of its many translations. Agape, eros. And this is our spirit candle. This is to acknowledge those who come in and sit with us and hold our stories. I am because you are. Amen.
Oh, it's,
Do you want to read that?
yeah,
I need to go through these.
okay, I could do that. Okay, and since we are still in midwinter, we're going to go ahead and read, here, I'll give you that. Is this a poem or an excerpt or?
Poem prayer excerpt.
Poem prayer excerpt, okay, about midwinter. Midwinter. When midwinter sunrise shines down the passage tomb, how can we not dance? How can we not live again? When the breathing light of the nearest star illuminates the bowl of bones, how can we not dance, sing our dead across the river of souls? Come into the consciousness of clouds, come into the consciousness of megalithic structures, the frequency of the flickering flame, the blushing sky, the naked light, the psychedelic stars. Taste communion, the substance of the universe. This is my body. The consciousness of galaxies, this is my blood. When the living God that is the sky makes elaborate patterns, kiss and the stars show their fiery wings, how can we not dance? How can we not live again? And so going with the theme of how shame shows up in our bodies and how it, when it shows up in our bodies and it presents as disease, it presents as trauma. I have a couple of readings here. One is about healing and one is actually about bringing care into the community when you have that shame present. So this one is called healing. Trauma is the common experience of most humans on this planet. Love too often perpetrates trauma, repeating the patterns of intimacy and pain so many of us experienced growing up. Sorry, there's like limited grammar marks. Repeating the patterns of intimacy and pain so many of us experienced growing up in racist and or heteropatriarchal environments. Shame might be the only thing more prevalent, which leads to trauma being hidden, silenced, or regulated to a certain body of people. If we can't carry our trauma and act normal, if we have a breakdown or lose our jobs, our homes, children, there's something wrong with us. What we need is a culture where the common experience of trauma leads to a normalization of healing. Being able to say, I have good reasons to be scared of the dark, of raised voices, of being swallowed up by love, of being alone. And being able to offer each other, I know a healer for you. I'll hold your hand in the dark. Let's begin a meditation practice. Perhaps talk therapy is not enough. We should celebrate love in our community as a measure of healing. The expectation should be, I know we are all in need of healing, so how are we doing our healing work? And then with that, this one is build communities of care. So shift from individual transactions for self-care to collective transformation. Be in community with healers in our lives. Healers, we must make sure our gifts are available and accessible to those growing and changing our communities. Be in family with each other. Offer the love and care we can receive. Offer the love and care we can. Receive the love and care we need. Share your car or meals with a healer in exchange for Reiki sessions. Facilitate a healing group in exchange for massages. Clean a healer's home as barter for a ritual to move through grief. Pay healing forward. Buy sessions for friends. Let our lives be a practice ground where we're learning to generate the abundance of love and care we as a species are longing for. And then it actually goes into this Valentine's Day, which we just passed. Commit to developing an unflappable devotion to yourself as part of an abundant, loving whole. Make a commitment with 5 people to be more honest with each other, heal together, change together, and become a community of care that can grow to hold us all. Thank you.
So we're reading from a book called Pleasure Activism, and it is written by, it's actually, the whole title is Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good. And it is written by Adrienne Marie Brown. Actually, it was more compiled because it's a bunch of essays from a lot of different activists and scholars whose work is about bringing pleasure into the spiritual realm, bringing body knowledge into the spiritual realm, bringing it into spiritual communities so that we can actually facilitate deeper, more authentic and more honest communities. And I really, really appreciate it. Maybe for those of us who come from more conservative and or evangelical backgrounds, the body is a site of a lot of things. And so me and my deconstruction, for me, my body is a site of many things. But first and foremost, it is a site of resistance because I'm the one that gets to choose how I use my body and what it's for, instead of having someone tell me what the expectation is. And so, and I find so much power in that. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting because when we talk about power in political circles and spiritual circles, it's not the same thing. There's a difference between power, a force, external force, and a power that is more empowering, that is about coming and being cultivated within. And unfortunately, many people don't ever get to experience that empowering power because we've been so conditioned,
yes, to not own your voice. We've been so conditioned to shove everything down and stuff it so that your voice, your needs, your wants doesn't exceed somebody else who has that greater energy, that bigger energy.
And I would just, for people watching at home and for everyone here, I feel like I want to offer a little bit of my standpoint and where I come from and why I feel that this is important to bring into spiritual circles. I am a reverend, I am a minister, I'm an interfaith minister, and I'm also very much an animist, meaning that I believe that there is divinity in all material manifestation, in nature, in everything. I also believe in feminism. I am a feminist. I am an intersectional feminist. I bring my body as a white woman into the room. I bring just all of my social locations. It informs who I am, and it informs the way in which I interact, not only in spiritual circles, but all circles, because for me, the whole world could be community. And so I offered this book. It's a book of essays, and it talks about pleasure as political practice. It talks about pleasure as a spiritual practice. And it starts with, and this is what's really beautiful, as I was getting ready to talk about and introduce the ministry of the body and all that that will encapsulate. And of course, anything that's going to start with the body has to start with how we feel just being here. And that means being able to be honest about what's coming up for us. How does our body feel sitting in these white chairs right now? How does it feel listening to me speak? What does that, is it igniting anything in you? If not, that's just information. It's no judgment, right? Maybe you're going to walk away with nothing to integrate, and that's fine. Or maybe something upsets you, and that's fine too. It's about honesty. And so I wanted to offer a little bit about Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde was a Black feminist who was very prolific in the late 70s and 80s, and she wrote a beautiful essay called The Uses of the Erotic. The Erotic is Power. And I'm not going to read the entire thing, but there are certain things that I just wanted to talk about. Mainly, why am I bringing up the word eroticism in a church service? Why? It doesn't happen all the time. Because we've only been able to actually implement culturally that word as a transactional tool. But the erotic isn't about something that we see that may arouse or not, but it's about the way in which we decide to live our lives. How sensuously we allow ourselves to take in every single moment that we breathe. And so the erotic, Audre Lorde says, is a resource within each of us that lies in a deeply spiritual plane, firmly rooted in the power of our unexpressed and recognized feelings. So if we think of it in those terms, when we talk about even like reading the Bible, and I'm going to say this, and it might be, I'm just going to say it, but reading the Bible can be an erotic experience because it's about activating all of our pleasure center. And it's about being very, very honest with what is sensuously coming up. Cooking a meal can be an erotic experience. Tending to our children, tending to our gardens, because it's about taking it out of this transactional sexual term. It's about how voluptuously we let the moment in. And when we talk about letting the moment in, we're talking about connecting with God. We're talking about connecting with all that lives. And so for me, it was important for me to even just, not even deconstruct that essay anymore. If you want to read the essay in its full, it's online. Audre Lorde, The Erotic is Power, and Uses and Tools for Erotic Power is beautiful and is used and is studied. But I didn't want to just talk about it. I didn't want to talk and say, live sensuously, because what does that even mean? It's going to mean so many different things to so many different folks.
Right.
So it wasn't just, for us, it wasn't just about talking about this, but I actually want to have a counsel around it. What does the word eroticism mean to you? And how does hearing me talk about it in this more expansive way, how does it land? How are you feeling in your bodies right now? So I want to just open it up for anyone who wants to share. And if you have anything that you want to offer, please. So
how it shows up for me, and this wasn't the case ever, like up until the last few years. I have a very extreme trauma history. So I have a lot of experiences that I had to shove down and just muddle through life the best that I could in survival mode for so long. The way this is showing up for me now is that I started owning who I was authentically at my core. I started listening to those murmurs inside my brain that was like, you're more than this. You can do more. You are meant to do more in this world than what you're doing right now. And when I started really leaning into that and experiencing pleasure in this way, like noticing how beautiful the mountains were and how that excited me to drive to work in the morning now, because I can see this beauty and recognize it for what it was. And now, raising my teen nieces, like seeing that I'm able to help mold their lives into something that's more authentic for them. And like just sharing experiences with them that they've never had before, and seeing the excitement on their face where they figure out that they can live their life outside of those trauma bonds as well. But living more in that authentic self of pleasure and like taking care of my body, taking care of my mind, it allows for me to show up more authentically in my communities, to have more confidence, to build things, and to step outside of that survivor box and be in more of a space where I can help people heal. And with that, I've actually, I've started a couple of communities of people, like-minded people. I've started a discussion group that I host every 2 weeks for survivors of trauma and abuse. I've started a healing series because I was able to really lean into those moments and realize that if I'm able to enjoy things, I'm able to show up with more confidence and more authenticity than I ever have before. So, yeah.
How do you feel in your body right now?
Anxious, but good.
Where does the anxiousness live?
In my brain, but it's more to do with bad choices, poor choices.
I mean, if I could just disclose, just being like holding this message today, I'm feeling anxiety as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling it like in my heart space, and I'm feeling it in my stomach. Yeah. I'd love to hear from you. How has it been to have this conversation?
Oh, I would admit I haven't had this conversation in a church setting before. I come from an evangelical conservative background, but when I think of that word, I think of a couple things. I've got 2 young daughters, 24 and 21 almost. And I think about the pressure, especially for our kids these days, that the world puts on how we look.
Yeah.
And they don't even want to post a picture on Facebook without fixing everything so they look like a model or a six-pack or whatever it is, right? And this word erotic seems that society's just made it dirty and an act versus how you framed it, which I kind of appreciated that. And so that's my initial reaction to it. It didn't cause like fear or anxiety in me, but it made me kind of broaden how I was thinking about it, especially being newly married and some of the things that we're experiencing, learning about each other's bodies as well. So I think it's something that can be discussed without it being shameful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my wife has been, she's gone through an amazing journey. I don't want to speak for her, but she's lost weight and gotten in great shape and so much healthier. I had cancer in last year, prostate cancer, that I believe I'm over. I'm kind of claiming that the cancer's gone now.
Yes.
And she's had a lot of health issues, but I love the way she does, when we talk about that physical aspect of exercising and stuff with the goal of being healthy and not looking a certain way, but being healthy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she always reminds me of that when I get frustrated that I don't look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with looking good. Right?
No.
But yeah, I agree with what you said. That's an interesting way to put it, which I hadn't thought of either. So, talk about cooking. That's how I am when I want to cook, and I like to cook for him. I like to cook things. I don't even eat them, but I make them for him, and that makes me really happy. So I think that's another way to put it.
Well, and even with the cooking, she's an amazing cook, but she really does some pretty interesting things, just her and me. There's no one else that ever see it or brag about it or anything else. and she'll just do the extra little special thing to make it look beautiful and we can enjoy it. And instead of just this fast food culture that America has, just drive through and eat quick and feel miserable about 20 minutes later.
It's real.
So I appreciate that about her.
Well, congratulations on beating cancer.
Yeah, and we both had such a
We had
crazy
a
year.
last year.
She had.
We got married.
Got married.
And congratulations on your marriage.
It was a giant, like,
Prostate cancer.
Yes.
She got the first Moderna shot, and then literally almost killed her. She can no longer have any more COVID vaccines. Her liver almost failed, and
Oh my goodness.
awful. So no more poisons into her body for that. But I've taken the shots just fine. We both had COVID, and we survived that. My dad did pass the COVID, so just 2021 was a year to put in the rearview mirror, except for the fact we got married.
and there was a tumor on my spinal cord in my neck.
Oh.
And so I had that operated on in October.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to a much
It's
healthier,
a lot.
2022, and
Right.
put some of that behind us. So.
May I ask a question? How has dealing with your tumor, and did that change your relationship with your body? Like, have you noticed, do you relate to your body differently?
For me, for a long time now, I'm 56, probably around the age of 40 is when I kind of got into, I'm going to take better care of it, care more about what I put into it, and I still have had weight fluctuations and all this kind of stuff, but so I tell him all the time, you gotta take care of your body because it's the only place you have to live, really. You gotta take care of that. Now, the things that happened to me and the things that happened to him, we couldn't really prevent. They just happened. I went to get the Moderna shot. I was like, give it to me. We're getting married. We gotta have the, And I was probably the last person you would expect, because I've been very healthy my entire life, that it would take me down. I was sick, like in bed, done. So, for me, I really tried hard to take care of my body and watch what I put in it and exercise. This one over here, we got a little work.
Well, the word cancer was so scary because, it is scary, but, I go to my first appointment at the urologist and he goes, man, I think it's probably already spread throughout your whole body. We'll verify that. I'm 61 at the time, I'm 62 now, and he talks about some terrible things that they're probably going to do to me, physically and with chemo and all this stuff. And I just came home from the first appointment, just a mess. And so I went through a real roller coaster of emotions, and the drugs that I was on affected me too. Did not handle those emotions very well. We went to San Diego. I did 28 sessions of radiation to kill the cancer, which I believe it did. And now there was no more drugs in my body, so my testosterone's coming back, and I'm feeling like a human again. But it's just.
I don't think we answered the question. It was like, how did it make me feel about my body? I actually felt disappointed in my body.
Okay.
Because I had been so good for so long. And the shot, there was really no other explanation for what happened to me.
Right.
I ended up with a guy who does liver transplants at Anschutz, like big time guy, and like nobody can explain it. There's no physical reason for my liver to start like basically failing, other than that shot. So can't really blame my body for that one. I think my body did its job in that, I recovered from it eventually. It took a long time.
Right.
The tumor, it was just again like, oh my gosh, like another thing, in the same year. And then so that was about a 3-month recovery. So come January 1st, I got COVID because I can't get immunized. And so I got COVID, and then I have another little health issue going on. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's kind of like another one, I go through the recovery from the tumor and then boom, another one, right? And I'm like, God, what's going on? So I think I felt a little disappointed, but I also still get up and, when I'm well and when I can, and I recovered very well from the tumor surgery because they had to take a piece of bone out, and it was on my spinal cord, pushing against it really bad. And so that went really well, and I recovered really well. I recovered actually really quickly. They were like, "You are doing way better than we could have even like asked for." So I guess I felt disappointed, but I also feel pretty proud of my body for the recovery with all the just one thing after another kind of thing. So.
Hmm.
And how do you feel about your body after going through?
You know, I think I was just really had let fear take over and anxiety, which caused anger, and she had to experience some of that, unfortunately. And that's disappointing, but I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm on a men's prostate group on Facebook, and it's interesting that I'll come alongside other men who are experiencing, because 1 out of every 6 men will experience prostate cancer in their life, and to give them some type of encouragement, because the first thing they typically do is take all the testosterone out of your body, which causes terrible physical and emotional effects on a man to not have any testosterone. And so just to come alongside them, so I feel like now that I feel healed or healing, I can come alongside and help other guys.
That's really
So
beautiful.
you're part of the healing community.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
He's become like the expert, like after he, has got prostate cancer and, he starts telling people, because he's like super open with that stuff. I'm a little more like private. I'll just tell who I want to tell, but he's like, tells it, like everybody.
That's just
So people call, and then it's like, you find out how many men have prostate cancer, like everybody. And people call him like all the time for, they get referred to him from like his boss or something like that.
Yeah.
Because he did a really interesting thing. He had proton therapy. So it's radiation, but they target the specific areas that the cancer has spread to.
wow.
And so that's why we had moved to San
Pretty
Diego
amazing
first. They don't do it
facility.
here in Colorado. And so,
What a journey, though. And
Yeah.
I love that you pointed that out, that now in your healing process and your like shifting relationship with your body, that you are experiencing being a healer now for others and holding that space. I think that's a really, really beautiful example of what happens when we commit to just letting ourselves be these fragile human beings, and committing to just being honest and healing ourselves. That happens naturally. Like, people are attracted to that fortitude, I think.
It's allowing me to stop being so self-centered. It's all about me. No, it's not all about me.
Yeah.
I can help others, and I can be a better husband to her, and a better father and friend. It's not just expect, give me pity. That's all about me.
How about you?
Thank you.
How about you?
I understand the topic intellectually, not from own experience.
Oh, yeah.
I had a most wonderful life and I'm an extremely happy person. I am, however, somewhat disappointed and uncomfortable because I didn't expect a discussion group. I expected a service and inspiration. So I'll just have to settle down and work through that. I had different expectations.
Sure. And I really appreciate you sharing that.
And there's a lot of restlessness, and you speak with so much passion. But oh my God, I'm sitting here. I want to center and breathe and get my little bit of holiness.
Absolutely.
And I'm not finding it. So again, I have to work through this.
Yeah. Thank you.
But that actually speaks to what we're talking about as well. That's showing up, not necessarily in a shame sense, but in an expectation sense. Like, I've found in my life when I set expectations, especially in relationships, that I have this picture of the way I want things to be, and this is by no means a criticism whatsoever. It's just how it always goes completely different from what I'm expecting. And then that's exactly what I need to do. I need to sit with it, with the experience, and figure out, how can I apply this to what I was expecting? How can I bring this in?
Yeah,
That's
it's about
just-
how will I react and how will I adjust my attitude, because it's all about the attitude.
Right.
So,
And I hear you, and I want to honor the fact that maybe there is a call for just a little bit of like sanctity before we end. And so we can shift from discussion, which I feel is probably right to do,
Yeah,
and do more ceremony and do
well,
more.
we usually have discussion after.
Yeah.
This time it sort of seemed the entire service kind of big part is
Yeah.
discussion, and I was not.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily keen on speaking when things are being recorded, because I'm very private.
I thank you for
So
that
being
point.
called out like that is uncomfortable for me.
I
Absolutely.
apologize for calling you. I thought you were going to say something earlier, so I was just coming back to you.
No.
I apologize.
No, don't, it's okay, we're all friends.
Yeah.
I'm not a Facebook poster.
No, that's okay.
At all.
That's okay. So let's just take a moment then, and like we're talking about the body and the ministry of the body, and the first part of having a ministry of the body is about being honest about where we are in our minds and in our hearts, and what our nervous system is doing and how we feel in these seats. So let's just take a couple of breaths together. Just take note if there's any discomfort in your body. Take note about the chatter in your mind. And I'm going to read this again, and I would love it for you to just take a moment to just be with yourself as I read these words. When midwinter sunrise shines down the passage tomb, how can we not dance? How can we not live again? When the breathing light of the nearest star illuminates the bowl of bones, how can we not dance? Sing our dead across the river of souls. Come into the consciousness of clouds. Come into the consciousness of megalithic structures, the frequency of the flickering flame. The blushing sky, the naked night, the psychedelic stars. Taste communion, the substance of the universe. This is my body, the consciousness of galaxies. This is my blood. When the living God that is the sky makes elaborate patterns, kiss and the stars show their fiery wings, how can we not dance? How can we not live again? When this poem, which I read all the time, makes elaborate patterns and kisses the stars and shows their fiery wings, there's just something about how can we not dance? How can we not celebrate the joy of being alive in this moment? In all of its fricativeness, in all of its beauty and ease and complexity and difficulty. So, communion. I'm going to pass around these little things of juice and bread. And they've been sitting on the land acknowledgement altar because for me, when I touch these, I think about Jesus and the apostles at the table, and I think about how the eroticism that lives in the cultivation of the wheat, the cultivation of the grapes, to make the wine and to make the bread, and to get it to the point where Jesus, in all of that sensuousness that he was living at that time, to say this beautiful earthly prayer. How can we not dance, right? How can we not dance with that? So as I pass these around, Joella, would you actually? I would love for you to, before opening it, hold them in your hand. And just say a whisper of gratitude for all of the cycles that it came for these to land in our hands. I'm thinking about those who have cultivated it. Love and gratitude for this communion. So when you're ready, go ahead and partake. Yeah, they're very particular to you. Father, Mother, God, as we take in the liquid and the bread, as we take in the sustenance that keeps our bodies strong, that keeps our bodies going forward, Father, Mother, God, hear us as we sit in circle today in fellowship and all of the complexity that is to talk about the pleasures of the body. Understanding that you, Father, Mother, God, has given us this vessel in order to receive love, in order to receive sensuousness and abundance and generosity. Thank you so much for being with us as we come together today. And my prayer is that in this distribution, that the energy that which we created here today finds its way to someone who doesn't feel so good in their body, who isn't able to celebrate in sensuousness, who isn't able to understand that the term eroticism is so vast and celebrates you. It celebrates you. It is a celebration of being in the manifest world. Love and gratitude as I blow these candles forward. May this conversation, those who are here in person, and for those who are still with us online, thank you for being part of this circle. And together, let me take a deep breath and with me blow these candles forward until our next meeting. Amen.